Showcase, the college edition, and am honored to have a 2016 graduate of Prairie Ridge. We'll let him share more, but Dereck Pearson. How are you, Dereck?
Hi, guys. I'm doing well. So I just
Awesome.
recently graduated from the University of Iowa with a degree in biomedical engineering and a certificate in technological entrepreneurship.
Wow. Okay, so explain to me, for the ignorant people like me, what all that means.
So biomedical engineering is solving problems related to, medical devices, medicine. There's a lot of different tracks, especially at Iowa, that they offer. So the track that I took was the biomechanics and biomaterials track. And this would allow me to innovate and I guess learn more about the medical device industry, what kind of devices are out there and, how to go about them a different way that might be more effective than what's currently in use. As far as the technological entrepreneurship certificate, it's basically some of the more simpler business courses that just give you the background of, how a business works and, how to take an idea for a medical device or something like that to market and start a business on that. So that was really interesting. It was nice for me to get out of, just the engineering mindset for a little bit and learn something different that would be very useful for me later in life.
That's awesome. So with that being said, what's next? What's next on the horizon for you? And we'll get back into Iowa, but what are you looking to do now in the next coming months?
So although I do have an engineering degree, I'm looking to go into surgical sales. So some type of joint replacement sales. So if someone needs a hip replacement or a knee replacement, I would be providing that. And sometimes even in the operating room, overseeing the surgery and make sure the doctor or the surgeon is using the correct surgical technique with those. I kind of chose this route over engineering because, I'm a people person. I like talking. I like seeing different perspectives and things like that. And I believe that, that career will let me get a chance to get out and kind of experience the world, talk to a lot of people, do a lot of networking and, allow my interpersonal skills to, I guess, take over and hopefully drive sales for some sort of medical device company.
That's awesome. Now, did you get a chance to dip your foot in the pool, like with any internships with that, or kind of where were you on the internship front?
So I had a great internship with a small company called Post-Op Partners. They were partnered with Breg Bracing, and what they do is they distribute medical DME, which is durable medical equipment. This includes a lot of post-op braces, crutches, walkers, things like that for companies. And what I would do, I serviced about, I think it was around 20 hospitals and clinics in the south and west suburbs of Chicago, as well as northwest Indiana. And I would go there, check inventory. I'd talk with doctors, make sure they're getting adequate amounts of equipment for their patients. And if they wanted to add anything new, if they needed any custom solutions for a certain patient, things like that. And I would, I guess, facilitate that relationship and make sure everything went smoothly. So my actual title was not a salesperson, but I was a service representative. And so I was just kind of maintaining those accounts that the company had already set up.
That's awesome. Now, did you kind of go into that cold, or did you initially go in with a fellow rep to kind of learn the ropes, or how'd that go for you?
Yeah, so there was a gentleman by the name Jackson. He was the service rep at the company before I came in. I think he moved up to sales since then, but yeah, he definitely showed me the ropes and showed me some of the protocol. There's a lot of nitpicky things, especially one of the big things with the job was cleaning insurance claim forms. And I guess by cleaning, making sure that, all the information's on there, all the signatures are on there so that we could get reimbursed by insurance for the product that we licensed out. And so he kind of went through and taught me all that protocol, taught me how to act, taught me how to treat these doctors and, high up medical officials in these hospitals. And, it was definitely a good step in the door. And he really, gave me that base understanding of what this industry would be like, especially working in it. So.
Okay. Well, now with the quarantine, obviously, I know that doctors' offices have not opened up their offices to pharmaceutical or supply reps or things like that yet. How has that affected you going forward? Is there kind of a lull in hiring now, or do you have some opportunities you're looking at?
There's definitely a lull in hiring. Before the pandemic, especially, I was doing a lot of job hunting and things like that, and there was a lot of jobs on the market. A couple of big companies I'm looking at are Stryker Medical, Dupuy Surgical Synthesis. I know Stryker has their Sage headquarters right in Crystal Lake over there. But yeah, as this stuff started to unfold and, time went on, I did notice a lot of those jobs being removed from the market just because, those doctors don't want to meet with random people. Again, they're treating patients. They can't be sick. So, it all makes sense, but it does create a little bit of a lull in the amount of jobs needed right now.
So then what happened? Tell us your experience of where you were, what was going on when the quarantine hit, and how you kind of finished out your year with Iowa.
So it was actually, we didn't go back after spring break, and I was actually in Mexico at the time over spring break when I learned that, classes would be held online and we wouldn't be back on campus. And, that hit me pretty hard, but at the same time, it's something that had to be done. You can't feel too bad. This is for the safety of the general public. And as someone in the healthcare industry, you really recognize the importance of that. And I guess, the biggest thing is just to be together about it and not, have people you can talk to and be with throughout the whole experience.
Sure. So tell me about that. How did you stay? Did you stay in Iowa City? Because Iowa obviously was one of those states that didn't fully shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people had stayed for that very reason. Did you still stay in Iowa City? Did you come home? What was your interaction like there?
So after spring break, I stayed home and began to stay home for the remainder of the semester. I did go back and visit Iowa City, to see friends. My girlfriend was actually living there at the time, so I'd go back there and, little by little take some of my stuff back to Crystal Lake and things like that while I was there. So I did go back to Iowa City, but I decided it was a time that, during school I hadn't got to visit my family very much, and I wanted to come back and, be around them and kind of let them see me a little bit. So I really wanted to.
Nice. So with that being said, describe for us everyone in your family, their names, what they're up to, and so everyone can know.
So my dad, Bill, he's a general contractor. So he remodels kitchens, bathrooms, anything like that. And I actually helped out with him a lot of the times when I was younger, and even into my high school and college years, I would go and help him. My mom works for a strategic mobile group. They sell barcodes and things like that.
Okay.
She works out in Schaumburg. Her name's Christine. My brother, Ryan, he's currently at PR right now. He's going to be a senior. He's a football player just like me. And he's looking to hopefully play football in college afterwards.
Awesome. So let's go back to that. Picture now, junior, senior year. Obviously, you had a successful football career, and tell me about what went into your process of, all right, am I going to play at the next level? Am I going to play at a D2 or D3 or a small D1 versus going big time and going to Iowa? What went into that thought process for you?
So my whole process deciding whether or not I wanted to play college football was really on the academics of it. So again, a lot of the smaller universities don't have as good of an engineering program as the bigger universities, just simply because they don't have the resources. And so I kind of chose Iowa because as far as football went, I wasn't really getting those big offers. If I was a few inches taller, maybe I would have, but I wasn't getting those big offers that I wanted, and some of the schools just didn't seem right for me. So I decided, I had a good run in high school. I had a lot of fun, but I'm going to end on a good note and just leave it at that.
Right.
Chances are, I was a wrestler in high school too, and I would have, it's a bad thing to say looking back on it, and Coach Trump is going to kick me for this, but looking back on high school, oftentimes I miss wrestling more than I did football.
Okay.
And that's a big statement, especially for me. I played football probably over 10 years of my life, but
yeah.
I guess going to the next level, I felt it was time to stop and focus on more of my career and my future, in industry.
And I get that because you're very driven, and I guess wrestling gives you that more of that immediate feedback because this is mano a mano. It's not as big a team sport, obviously. Mm-hmm. So I totally get that. So tell me more about that.
And I love the 1v1 competition and things like that. And I love, the camaraderie and the team, just being out there on the side of the mat, yelling at the guys that are wrestling, keep going, push, yelling out what to do and things like that. And I still go back occasionally during the winter and, help out some of the current wrestlers that are there right now. And so just the whole camaraderie of it. And even though it's a 1v1 competition, you know, your team's getting you better, you're practicing with these guys, you know, they're really the ones that are going to make you better and, you know, help you excel at the sport.
Now, when you were looking at Iowa, were there other big schools you were looking at as well? Who were the other schools?
So I was looking at Wisconsin, Minnesota. I looked at Marquette up in Milwaukee. I was actually going to go to Marquette. And then the day after I visited Marquette, my mom was like, hey, you want to take a visit to Iowa? Maybe you'd like it. And I said, well, I mean, I guess it wouldn't hurt. And I stepped on campus and I said, you know, this is the place for me.
All right, so let's look at that. So here you are, a freshman in the fall of 2016, right? You arrive in Iowa City. What was your dorm situation? Who were your roommates? Tell us about that first.
So I lived in one of the really new dorms at Iowa. It's called Peterson Hall. My roommates, one was named Brent. He was from a small town in southern Iowa. He was a really cool guy. He ended up not returning to Iowa after his first year. He didn't really know what he wanted to do, so he decided to go to a smaller school and try to figure that out before he stepped back into, I guess, the big university world. My other roommate, his name was actually Yukong, and he was an international student.
Cool. So did they just get assigned, or did you like go on Facebook and select each other? How'd that work at Iowa?
Nope, it was totally random. I think me and Kyle Heinzman, you know Kyle.
Yep.
We had talked about being roommates, but I think we realized that we needed to, you know, apply before a certain deadline, and it was already past that time. So we weren't really able to get the whole roommate situation going together. But, you know, I felt it was good to be with more random people just because I wanted to make new friends at Iowa. And, you know, a lot of the people that lived on my floor at Peterson are still really good friends with me to this day. I met my girlfriend on the first floor of the dorm, so that was obviously a really good experience for me. And so I kind of like being with random people, and I guess detached a little bit from that first little while to the hometown, just so I could meet other people, get their perspectives, you know, get to know them and things like that.
That's awesome. So when you first came on, what were some of the activities or clubs or associations that you got involved in to kind of, you know, get social and get acclimated to your first year? Because I remember talking to your dad when he dropped you off, and you know, just sharing the emotions that I think we both shared, being that we both were dropping off first timers. So
Yeah.
I know it could get tough.
Yeah. So I guess what helped me get started was really just, you know, when I moved into my dorm, I would always have my door open. You know, anyone walking by, anyone could, you know, come in, say hi and talk. And I would spend a lot of times hanging out in the lobbies of the dorms and things like that with everyone else that was on the floor, just getting to know them and, you know, making new friends. And then there would always be events in the residence halls too. Like there'd be like bingo night or movie night or something down in one of the multi-purpose rooms that I would always attend. I was trying to go to a lot of events possible just to meet new people and whatnot and kind of get started with my, I guess, friends at Iowa. Freshman year, I actually was involved with the rugby club. So
Nice.
I tried to play rugby for a while, but I guess halfway through that, I realized that, you know, I was trying to spend more time doing that than schoolwork, especially as a freshman. You know, they pile a lot of busy work onto you and things like that. So I realized that committing that much time to something was, I guess, not a good route for me in my career at Iowa. And so I stopped doing that after my first year. Sophomore year, I joined the Biomedical Engineering Society. And so that just focused on the things with fellow biomedical engineers, people I'd see, you know, throughout my career at Iowa. And that created a bunch of consistent friendships with me as well. So really, as soon as I got to Iowa, I was kind of doing everything I could to meet new people. I was, you know, going and eating with my friends at different dining halls and things like that, just to try to find new people to hang out with. So it was just kind of, you know, if you sit back and don't do anything, you won't make a lot of lasting friends at college. But if you really get out there and, you know, I guess, meet other people and really expose yourself to that environment, I think it's fairly easy to make friends in college.
Okay, great. Well, let's spend a little time. We'll talk about the social and get back into the academic side. So on the social side, obviously getting involved in clubs, dorm activities, things like that. What were some of the fun things, campus universal, that you got involved in? Would it be like tailgates? Would it be, I mean, basketball games? I mean, tell me about that part.
So at Iowa, sporting events are obviously a big thing. It's a Big Ten university. So I know the only sports that you have to pay for at Iowa are football and men's basketball. Everything else was free. So more recently, actually throughout my whole college career, I was going to the wrestling meets. That's a huge thing at Iowa.
Oh, sure.
In the basketball stadium, and those were really fun. Obviously, the football games at Kinnick, packed stadium every week, tailgating before. I mean, it was just surreal.
So
Obviously,
tell me about that tailgate. What if I've never been to Iowa City for a football game. So tell, if anyone goes up there or students going to be going to Iowa, what can they expect with the tailgate scene?
You'll see a lot of stuff during tailgates. So at Iowa, we have Melrose. That's kind of where a bunch of the houses are, right by Kinnick Stadium. And there's always tailgates going on in the yards there, and people walking around the streets. There was a stand called the Big Ass Turkey Leg, and they'd sell turkey legs before the game. So after, you've had a drink or two, you want something to eat before the game, you go get a turkey leg. But there's a big street called Burlington Road also. A lot of the students will always walk to the stadium on that road. And so during game days, you just see a consistent line of people just going towards the stadium. And there's parking lots along that road where you see a lot of the parents tailgating with the cars. Mr. Kirchberg, I saw him a couple times at the tailgates too. And, it's really crazy on game day. And, you really don't want to be driving a car around the town at that time because there's so many people walking around. And it's just awesome to see everyone coming together for an event like that. And I guess really the camaraderie between students and things like that you can just all relate to football. Everyone's cheering, everyone's going crazy. And it's a fantastic time.
Now, is there a game, because Iowa's been involved in some cool upsets and shockers and great games over the years that you were there. Any games that stick out in particular for you?
So one of the games against Michigan, I forget which year it was, where we kicked the field goal and won the game on the last play. And we rushed the field after that. And just the in the stadium, you could definitely tell was just absolutely crazy. Everyone was going wild. Everyone was cheering. We rushed the field. So that was definitely the most memorable game for me, at least being at the stadium.
Sure. Now, tell me about student section. Did you guys have assigned seats, sections, block seat? I mean, what's the student seating like?
So the student seating was basically a whole corner of the stadium. So you get two sections. One was on I guess one of the longer parts of the field, and the other one was on the corner in by the end zone. And usually it would always be packed. There's no assigned seating. You go in, first come, first serve on the seats. And so we'd always get to the games around, we try to get in the stadium around a half an hour, 45 minutes early to get good seats up in the corner by the end zone, right above the tunnel that the players come out of. And so the student section was always just wild. Everyone's around there. You usually see your friends somewhere in the rows and things like that. So we'd always have a good group of about, I'd say 10 to 15 people going to these games. And it's a fun time being around everyone cheering for Iowa. And the student section was usually pretty eventful. So we had a lot of fun there.
Awesome. Now, you guys have gotten some public notoriety regarding kind of the salute to the Children's Hospital and such. Share a little bit about that, what that's like, and for people who aren't aware of it, what that involves.
So at the end of the first quarter, every game, you always wave to the children. The Children's Hospital is placed pretty close to the football stadium, and they built it actually especially so the children could look and see into the stadium and watch the games and things like that. So it's a really great thing that we, wave to those kids, and, we see them, they're, I guess, meaningful, and we care about them as a whole. So it's really good to support those kids and, let them know that they're important to us and we really care about them.
Yeah, because I know having a niece that went to Iowa, I know another big activity there has been the dance-a-thon and such. Because that also
dance marathon.
Yeah, that was also for the Children's Hospital, right?
Yes.
Have
correct.
you had a chance to partake in that, or tell me about that?
I did go. So before the dance, any of the participants go canning and things like that to try to, get money to raise for the cause and things like that. And I went with my girlfriend a couple times canning and things like that, but I didn't myself participate in it. But from what I've heard, it's, a really good experience to be involved in, and it's really fun. And I guess really fulfilling to, raise the money for the kids and then be there at that last night with them dancing for 24 hours straight. And
No,
looking back on it, I really wish I had gotten involved in that, because it does seem like something that would be really fun to do.
no, I wanted to hear kind of if you survived and kind of what your dance moves were when you when you did it.
So unfortunately, I didn't go to that 24-hour dance, but from everyone I talked to, it was usually get done with the dance, get something to eat, and then sleep for the next 12 hours.
Yeah. All right. So tell me about, once you turned 21, the whole town kind of opened up to you. What were the hot spots? What were the places that upperclassmen love to go to, have a drink, have a bite to eat?
So I know a lot of colleges have the Brothers is a big, I guess, chain of bars that go around college towns like that. So that was always a fun one we used to go to. Sports Column, that's one of the bigger bars at Iowa. I spent a lot of nights there. Well, I guess not a lot of nights when I wasn't studying, but and then, I guess we tried to kind of explore sometimes. If we were bored of going to one place, we'd try a bunch of the other littler bars. Joe's Place there, that's a really famous place for upperclassmen. They have a really nice rooftop bar area there that, they always have fires and stuff going up there. So it was, a lot of the spots we went to were pretty crazy. And I mean, we had our fair share of celebrations and things like that. So it was a really good experience at Iowa. And I mean, there's something for everyone there. They just opened up one of those axe throwing places. It's called Hatchet Jacks.
Oh, sure.
We can go there, have a beer or two, and then throw axes at this board and try to get bullseyes and stuff like that. So that place was really fun. Big Grove Brewery, that's a fancier place in Iowa City. So, if you wanted to go for like a fancy night out or a little bit more, I guess, tame, you would go there, and, it would be a nice place to sit around. They have outside lights, they have fire pits, they have bago, they have things like that. So it's a really nice place to go and sit and hang out with friends. It's a great place to bring parents if you're there too. And it was a really
Yeah,
cool.
you always pick the fancier places for when parents came to town, right?
Of course, exactly.
So for people that don't, Iowa City and the university are kind of intertwined, I guess, maybe kind of compared to Ann Arbor or Madison a little bit, right? From that, where would there be, would it be in the downtown area where the majority of those bars and restaurants were, or were they kind of scattered along? Was there a strip? I mean, share with people about that.
So there's an area of about 3 blocks that you can walk through. It's like a 3-block by 2-block square where the majority of the bars are at. And you can obviously walk there from most of the places you can live on campus. So I guess that's safe. It keeps people from driving and things like that. But all those bars are confined to a really small area. So it's easy if, your friends are out and they text you or something. You're like, hey, we're over here. Come say hi, whatnot. And it's kind of easy to go from one place to another and see as many people as possible. So it makes that really enjoyable to, especially go visit different places, but also see as many different people as you'd like and things like that, just because you're all in one area.
Nice. Now, where's a spot that for food that you're like, hey, if you go to Iowa City, you have to stop here to grab a bite to eat? It's like an Iowa City iconic place, a sandwich shop or something like that. I mean, a place you can think of.
For me, my go-to restaurant in Iowa City is Short's Shoe and Shine. And so it used to be an old shoe shine place, but now they turned it into a really cool burger spot. And they serve I think it's over 30 different types of burgers and things like that based on what they put on it there. And I think that's a really good spot. It's right downtown by all the bars and things like that. And, it's definitely, I brought my parents there a number of times. And, that was a big staple in Iowa City for me, at least in my experience.
Nice. Now, you were a biomedical engineer from the start, right?
Yes, correct.
No, go ahead.
So I was a biomedical engineer, but I also declared pre-med through my first semester.
Okay. So did you have to, how does it work in the engineering program there? Do you have to direct admit or did you direct admit to the engineering program prior?
I did, yes.
Okay. Now, do people have the option to get in after their sophomore year, or how's that generally work there?
again, I'm not too familiar with it just because, you know, I was direct admit. I was in the College of Engineering from the start. But I know of a lot of friends who, I guess, switched fields from biomedical to mechanical or from chemical over to biomedical. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity to switch within those first 2 years, because a lot of engineers at Iowa take pretty common core classes, especially between mechanical and biomedical, just because they're pretty intertwined.
Sure.
So it's pretty easy to switch around in there. And I know a bunch of friends that have gone from engineering to business, or even from business to engineering, or from biology to business. So it's pretty easy to switch majors at Iowa, and they really want you to do what you would like to do. And they want to help you find what you're comfortable with doing and what you want to do for the rest of your life. So
Right.
they were really helpful with me for that. And again, before you declare a track, so again, as a refresher, my track was biomaterials and biomechanics. So there's also bioimaging, there's cellular engineering. What's the other one? I can't tell it off the top of my head, but you know, they give you a chance in those first couple classes you take as a biomedical engineer to really explore those opportunities. Oh, bioinformatics. That's involved with more of computer programming.
Got it.
But they give you kind of a taste of each one of those specialties in your first couple classes you take, so you can really choose, you know, which one you're most interested in and which one you think you'd excel at the most.
Okay. Now I know you excelled academically in high school, and then now here you are transit. People are hearing you talk about your social life and going out to bars and things like that, and yet you're an engineering major, and we also hear that you guys have no life or things like that as well. So tell me about that transition freshman year and that balance and how you managed it in order to succeed.
So a lot of the times, you know, I'd get in slumps to where, you know, I would put off some assignments to more closer to the deadline, but for the most part, I would get my assignments done a few days early at least, or whenever they get released, I'd work on it the day or two after that, or things like that. But the transition was pretty easy for me. And I'll say this again, I'm sure later, but for me, the social aspect of college was really important because, you know, you could go and, you know, harp on yourself and keep yourself busy with schoolwork till your arms fall off. But I really enjoyed the social aspect, and I think it made learning and getting through that, you know, hard part of college way easier for me. Just going out and having fun with friends and hanging out and, you know, talking to new people. It really just, I guess, gave like a nice reset for me to where, okay, now I can go back and focus on homework. But I really do think that the most important thing that you could have done in college, especially with a harder major like this, is have fun, because it makes everything else way more worth it and fulfilling when you get it done.
Great. Now, getting into that line of work, I hear people that have had a relatively easy time with high school, right? And then they go into such a challenging field, and with other very, you know, high achievers, that now you realize, man, I'm not the biggest fish in this big pond now. And that creates some psychological and emotional issues in itself. How did you navigate that? And did you find that to be a struggle or not?
I guess personally, I'm a pretty confident person. So I believe anything I set my mind to, I can really do. And, you know, I can sit down with anyone, no matter how smart or I guess how high up they are and whatever, and talk to them. So I really wasn't concerned with being the biggest fish in the pond. Obviously, even if you're good at something, there's always going to be someone that's better. So I didn't let that hang down on me too low. But what I really did to help was I surrounded myself with some of those overachievers, some people who, you know, I will admit are definitely more intelligent than I am, but it definitely helped me get into that mindset, helped me study and, you know, kind of grasp how they took on their, you know, schoolwork and things like that. And I kind of adopted their process and I guess reconfigured it to something that would help me, but still remain within those lines of, you know, how they studied and things like that.
Okay, great. So, study habits, were there certain things that you did? Was there a certain place? Were you a guy that liked the library? Were you a guy that found a study room in your dorm? I mean, what was that habit you developed freshman year?
So freshman year, the habit I developed was definitely studying with other people. So for my dorm, my learning, they call it something in Iowa where each dorm has like, or each level of the dorm has like a theme. And I was on the STEM scholars floor. So
Okay.
this is where they put a lot of the, the biology majors, the engineering majors and things like that, the computer science majors. And it was an honors floor. So it was for the honors program. I don't know how I got on that floor. I was not involved with honors program, but it really surrounded me with some of those more, I guess, higher achieving people, and really got me in their mindset. And I would hang out with them, and we would always study in groups, and that's probably the biggest thing that I can say as a freshman. Get used to studying in groups, because that support system of other people studying the same material. Maybe one thing better than someone else, and maybe they know something better than you, and you can kind of combine perspectives on that and really learn the whole topic a little bit easier.
That's great.
That'd be my biggest tip for freshmen looking or figuring out how to study for these, I guess, harder exams.
Okay. So then how long did you stay on campus? I mean, what's the rule in Iowa? Do you have to stay for 1 or 2 years, or when, and then where did you end up staying?
So for Iowa, they want you to be on campus in the dorms for the first year.
Okay.
And I think that's really important, just to meet new friends so that you're not stuck with the same people your whole college career. But after my freshman year, I then moved into a house with 5 of my other buddies. And most of them were actually from around this area. So we had my roommates, Ezzy and Joe. They both went to McHenry High School. Kyle Heinzman, obviously, he went to PR as well. My roommate, Sam, he went to Woodstock. And then my last roommate, Jack, he lives in Rock Valley, Iowa, which is 10 minutes from South Dakota and 30 minutes from Minnesota. So way upper west Iowa or northwest Iowa.
Sure. So, and you stayed with those guys then all 3 years? Did you guys stay in the same house, or did you guys move around?
So for the first year, we stayed in a really nice house. It was built in 2008. So we were really living luxurious for college students. But the year after, we moved to a house that was a little bit closer to the main campus, and I guess a little bit more college speed in the area of more college people. So it was a good move, but the other house was nicer. But I did stay with those same people for my whole college career.
Oh, nice. So these are guys I anticipate, being groomsmen or staying friends all your life now.
Of course, definitely.
And I guess it probably provided an avenue for you and Kyle to be able to drive back and forth maybe together during the holidays, or did you guys drive separate?
Freshman year especially, that helped a great amount. But usually over the big holiday breaks, we both wanted our cars and things like that. So we'd usually drive home separate, and we'd leave at different times and things like that. But freshman year, it definitely really helped because I didn't have a car at school. So, Kyle and I would always drive to different places, or Kyle would even let me take his car home for the weekend if I needed to. So it was definitely really helpful.
Now, did you guys, do you find you really need a car in Iowa City your first year or two?
Oh God, no. Even as a senior, unless it's raining or snowing or something like that, you can walk pretty much anywhere you need to go.
So tell me about the makeup of students. Would it be 60% Iowa kids, or kind of what was the makeup of people you met?
More people than not, I met from, the northwest suburbs of Chicago or some sort of suburb of Chicago. It seemed like everyone from this area was just picking up and going straight to Iowa. So that was kind of nice, having people from the same environment and things like that. A couple of my good friends I studied with are from Naperville or from Lombard or things like that. So they're pretty close, and I guess that makes it pretty easy after college to stay in touch, just because you're in the same area, eat somewhere, go out for dinner and things like that, catch up. And so I feel like that's really nice. But there was quite a few people from Iowa. My girlfriend was from Des Moines. I know there's a lot of people from Des Moines that go to Iowa and things like that. But predominantly, I met a lot of people from the suburbs of Chicago.
Okay. Now you've mentioned your girlfriend a couple of times, so you gotta give her a shout out here. What's her name?
Okay, so her name is Liz. She majored in biology with a focus in genetics. She just got a job up in Madison, Wisconsin, which is great, and she's looking to go to grad school to be a genetic counselor.
A genetic counselor. Wow.
Yes.
All right. What's a genetic counselor?
So so if someone was trying to have now, she'll get mad at me because I'll probably botch this in some way, but um, it's basically the person you take or you go to when you're pregnant or things like not that, and you get, I guess, tested to see what's the probability of your child having, Down syndrome or any sort of birth defect, things like
Sure.
that. What exactly are those percents? Is there anything you can do to, I guess, decrease the risks of any, birth defects or anything like that, or how you should proceed in the general fashion while trying to have a kid.
Okay. So is this an appropriate time for you to make any special announcements about the furthering of the
No,
relationship? No?
this is not a time for that.
All right. I won't put either of you on the spot then here. So. But you've been dating 4 years now. Come on now.
Yeah, pretty close.
All right. So obviously it's serious and not a fly-by-night relationship. So.
Of course, it's very serious.
Okay. So
Looking forward to the future.
oh, that's awesome. Now, you said she's going to grad school at
Yes.
UW?
She's not going to grad school currently. So she found a job at a company called PPD. They're a third-party pharmaceutical testing company. So any drugs that are brought to market have to get tested by these third-party companies first in order to be approved by the FDA and things like that, just to make sure they're doing what they claim to be doing and there's not any, terrible side effects that are coming out of them. So that's basically what she'll be doing for this year. And then next year she'll reapply to grad schools once she has more experience under her belt. And
Very cool.
like that.
Now back to obviously football was big. Basketball became a big program in Iowa as well. And you had mentioned wrestling. Well, first of all, on the wrestling side, did you get a chance to go to the meet when Travis came to town by chance? Did you see Travis there?
So the couple times that Travis did come and wrestle in Iowa City, it was over. I think he came one time over Thanksgiving break or spring break or something like that. But I wasn't actually on campus to see him, but I was in pretty constant communication with him. I would check Twitter to see the updates of the match and, try to find it somewhere I could stream it, whatnot. But, It was really cool to see him wrestle and I guess his success too. So, shout out to Travis. You were great. And I loved to watch you wrestle. It was awesome.
Most definitely. Now, any road trips? I'm guessing a road trip maybe over to for the Iowa State game was probably fairly common, but where else would you take some trips to either watch sports or football or just visit buddies?
So I did go to Iowa State quite a few times. I've been to Drake and Des Moines once. I've been to Whitewater a couple times. So I got around to some of the schools in the area, but I didn't really take too many big road trips during my college career. I did travel quite a bit, but it wasn't to other schools and things like that.
Well, tell me about the traveling. What was that? What was that around?
I feel like I'm talking about her more than I am, but my girlfriend has a lake house in Lake of the Ozarks, so we go down there pretty frequently. That's a 5-hour drive from Iowa City, so it's easy, get away for 3-4 days and stuff like that and go have some fun.
I don't blame you. Beautiful place to go.
During college, I also traveled to Germany over Christmas one of the years, so I have family down in Germany, so we went and visited them for Christmas, and it was really cool to see some of the culture over there around the holidays and, how it was a little different from the U.S., but that was a really great experience.
A real Chris Kindle market, right?
We went to about, I think, 9 or 10 different ones.
Oh, that's got to be cool.
Yeah, every small little village will have their own Chris Kindle Mart, and so we kind of just traveled around every day. We did a different one or 2 in one day, things like that, so. Nice. It was good. It was really, really, I guess, amazing to be somewhere else and see that.
Now, where was your family in Germany? Where were they congregated? My
family's in Bavaria, so that's southern Germany. They all live in a little village called Wolfseck, and so there's so there's the grandparents live there, and then they had 3 daughters, and those daughters all have kids now. So there's quite a few people that we go see when they're over there, and it's just in a really small town. So we usually use that as home base, and then we, travel around different spots in the country and see different stuff.
That's awesome. So at what point did your family officially settle in the U.S.? Where was that in your lineage?
So my grandparents came over to the U.S. when they were around 20 years old. My
Okay.
grandfather's a little bit older than my grandmother, but they all both came around that time. And um, I guess I really should sit down and talk to them more about that. But they came to Bull Valley, is where my mom was raised and born. Um, she went to Stevenson High School. So we've always been in this area since they've come over. And my dad too, he went to Central for high school. So I guess my whole family's been in this area, but my grandparents were both born in Germany. My grandfather was from the southern part. That's his family that we are going to visit. And my grandmother was born more north of Germany.
Cool. Very cool. And also now next time we're in Central, we could try to find your dad's picture somewhere. So I'm going to guess, well, maybe your dad's like class of 83 or something from Central. Do you know?
85, I believe.
Oh, 85. Okay, so we're the same year. So all right, we'll have to look for William Pearson then and look at his mugshot in the hall. Have you seen it when you've gone to Central?
I have not. I believe they had some sort of water damage that I mean, I may be mistaken or something like that, but I believe there was some sort of like damage, water
No,
damage.
that's your
Like
dad's
that.
excuse. He just
It
didn't
had
want
to
you
have
to
been.
find the picture.
It had to have been.
Now, you've obviously, in such a challenging arena as biomedical, there's probably some people that had a huge impact for you at Iowa. Who are any of the faculty, staff that kind of, were important in your time there?
So my advisor, Professor David Wilder, he was a huge impact on me, just showing me how to be professional. Talking about any problems I'd have at the university with classes. He was always free to talk to me. And then, that would usually blossom into some sort of conversation talking about, biomedical engineering or anything new that's come out of the industry. And he just really taught me, how to be professional. He kind of helped me find exactly what I wanted to do in college. He was always willing to talk. And, he's definitely the person at Iowa that has made the biggest impact on me for that. He was a great teacher. I recently had a class with him senior year. Very interesting class, ergonomics of occupational injuries. And I really can't thank him enough for how much he's done for me throughout my college career. And I really appreciate him more than.
Now, was he assigned to you, or was he someone that you got to select as you progressed through the school?
So he was assigned to me.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then he is, like you said, he's a professor as well. So he carries a course load, and then he would have a basket of students.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Awesome. Now, how often would you guys connect usually?
At least once or twice a month, I'd say.
Wow.
At least once a month, I would email him for something, and then I'd go meet in his office, and, we'd chat for about 30, 45 minutes, and it would, he helped me through so many things, and I appreciate him so much.
No, that's great. Now, tell me did you do an online virtual graduation, or do you have an opportunity to go back and graduate at a different time, or what did Iowa do around that?
So they did do an online graduation where you could send in a photo and they would show your name and your picture up on the screen, what you graduated with and things like that. I was pretty busy traveling at the time, so I missed the deadline to have my picture in it, but my name still went up. But I'm considering walking in the fall or the spring just because I know that's something my parents really wanted to see. And, it would mean a lot to my family. And I guess a lot to me to have that kind of closure. But it's something that I would eventually really like to do.
Great. So looking back at your time at Prairie Ridge, first of all, tell me, how do you feel Prairie Ridge kind of prepared you for the next step?
One thing I noticed when I went into college is that, I took a lot of the AP courses and things like that, stuff with, a higher workload and things like that. And it immensely prepared me for a lot of those freshman weed out classes when it came to engineering. So principles of chemistry is a big one at Iowa. That's a real weed out course for, biology majors and engineering majors and things like that, just to know if you can handle the workload and I guess the intensity of it. And again, Mr. Seiler, shout out to Mr. Seiler. He was my chemistry teacher he was my AP chemistry teacher and what he taught me in that class and just how to be as a person, how to be professional. And he set up that class very similarly to how Iowa had set up their chemistry class. So it gave me a real step up in the competition. And I guess it was very meaningful, him telling us how to conduct ourselves in labs, how to take notes, how to really learn and be scholars. So that definitely had a huge impact on me for, I guess, how I was prepared to come into college.
Sure.
So, and just as a whole, just being a good person. I guess I was very social in high school, so I guess I knew how to make friends and things like that. But, I feel like high school provided a lot of routes too, to where you could meet, people you wouldn't necessarily talk to and things like that. So I think Prairie Ridge definitely prepared me very well for college.
Awesome. Now, what if you got Mr. Seiler there? What other faculty or staff do you look back on and go, man, they were huge in my growth as a student?
So obviously I played football. So Coach Trump was probably the other really big influence to me at Prairie Ridge. Even for this podcast, he taught me, always be early, always be punctual, how to just be a good person and, how to conduct yourself on a day-to-day basis around other people. And he really taught me how to grow up and I guess advance into that next stage of my life to where I was adulting more often and things like that, And Coach Trump would always be there for me too. If I needed to talk to him about anything, or I'm still in pretty good contact with him today. When I go to the football games, I'll talk to him and, I'll send him a text every once in a while saying, hey, how's it going? Or I know my brother's in really close contact with him. So I actually see him quite often now. And, I'm super thankful for how he impacted on me during high school. And I think he was really one of the big factors that made me who I am today.
That's awesome. So now, what are those moments, and even on the humorous side, when you look back on your time with your brothers on the football team or with Coach Schremp, that you just go, that was great, or that was a blast?
So one of the real memorable things, I know for homecoming week, we did all the dress up days, and it was, I think, costume day I did it, but I put on the outfit that Coach Trump wears to football practice every single day. I carried around a clipboard, has a whistle, had the hat with the sunglasses on it, and I'd say I looked pretty damn similar to how Coach Trump did. So I thought that was a really funny moment looking back on it. And
did you have the imitation down? Because a lot of the senior guys that have graduated this year are very good at imitating Coach Schremp. Is that?
Oh yeah. Well, we get a lot of time to see how he is in practice and things like that. So yeah, my imitation of Coach Trump was very good back then.
So any try now? Is there a certain go-to that Coach Schremp always came back? I mean, obviously you played under him for many years. So, I always hear the linemen, especially that his opening lines are the same and things like that.
Is one of the biggest things he says around practice just, I always say to me, I'd have an issue of my height when I was blocking. He would always say, Pearson, get lower. He would always say it. You could hear that probably 3 or 4 times a practice.
You probably had nightmares during the football season with that.
Of course. Every day.
Now, if you look back on your time playing varsity, is there a game or two that really kind of left a lasting impact on you?
Definitely the Montini game, the last game that I ever played.
Yeah.
In that snowstorm, it was blizzarding, and that was just a time where you learned, like, you're out here with all your brothers and things like that, and you really just got to push through it. Obviously, the playing conditions weren't good. They were basically bulldozing the field while we were playing to get some of the snow off. So it showed that, even in those challenging times, if you come together with your team, and it made a lasting impact on me, even though we lost, that, we put such hard work in, and that game was a really big representation of how, football should be played.
Yeah, and I think that game was obviously the spark that caused the team 2 years after to do what they did, because they just couldn't get that game out of their system. And I know that was a painful loss, but you guys no one even considered that game to be close. The almighty Montini, and here you guys came in and and really, had them. And,
Yeah, for
just
the
for
first
some,
half, we were beating the snot out of them.
yeah, and the weather and other things that came into play. But, hopefully that, like, it seems like that you have positive memories from that, which is great.
And I mean, yeah, as I said, that really shows how, I guess, PR football is taught and handled. Just, no matter how hard it is, just come together and, you can always push through it.
Now, any of your old teammates, obviously Kyle, right? So
Mhm.
you guys were on the line together. Any old teammates that you spent a lot of time with? Did you get a chance to interact with a couple of PR boys that were on the Iowa squad while you were there?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, all of us on the offensive line and even on the football team too, I'm still really good friends with, Jeff, Frank, Ryan, Kyle, Cole. I'm friends with so many of those guys still, and I still talk to them on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, nice, nice. So we had Mr. Seiler, we had Coach Schremp. Anyone else that we kind of look back on and go, man, I just used to love the way they taught or the fun you had in
So,
their class?
so especially in the engineering department, Mr. Lowe and Mr. Keppen. Mr. Keppen, he was my EDD class, so that was the final capstone class of the Project Lead the Way courses. He really helped me identify that, I wanted to be a biomedical engineer. And, Mr. Lowe and Mr. Keppen made those classes fun enough and made them hands-on to where, you were learning a lot of aspects of problem solving and engineering. But when I was in their class, I felt like I was having fun. I wasn't really doing schoolwork. And I'm really thankful for them for making them that way. And, kind of, it made me want to be an engineer. I don't know how you could go through all 4 years of those classes and not want to be an engineer.
No, that's
And
awesome.
I mean, they really set the foundation for my critical thinking and my problem solving. Especially, just finding creative ways to work around it. And then, maybe if those ways are too unrealistic, try to figure out how to incorporate it into your design a different way. And so they really helped me set that base for critical thinking and problem solving that I would definitely use my whole career throughout Iowa. So the engineering curriculum at Iowa, going back to that just for a second, is they set it up where a lot of the classes include problem solving, like some issues where you have to think critically and think creatively in order to, I guess, solve the problem or get through the class. And they really helped set the base work for that. And I can't thank them enough for how well they taught me.
Great. So last couple of years, it's become a prevalent statement of once a wolf, always a wolf. And so when you hear that phrase now, being 4 years removed, what's that mean to you?
And again, I had it in my notes and I was thinking about it for a while. And the one thing I wrote down is, to me, it means family. To know that I could always go back to Prairie Ridge and be recognized and welcomed by any of the faculty and staff. And, even being on the football team, I still talk to Jeff, those guys, and I have a really close bond with, all the football players. And to me, once a wolf, always a wolf means your family for life.
Great. Well said. Now, fun fact about you, something that people don't know, and I don't think I gave you a heads up on this, but what is something that people just don't know about you other than maybe your immediate family? Either quirky, serious, fun, doesn't matter.
Fun fact about me.
Are you
That's
a
interesting.
hopeless romantic, watching love stories with your girlfriend? Are you
Yeah.
favorite song in the shower?
I guess some people don't know about me is that I really like to cook, and I've been getting into it a lot lately. So especially with the quarantine and things like that, that's been one of my new hobbies, learning how to cook and, keeping busy. Cooking healthier things too. I mean, during the quarantine, I've been trying to get a little bit more exercise, eat a little bit healthier and things like that. So I guess having all this time has given me advantage to, look up recipes, different techniques on how to cook and really practice those.
Awesome. So what's become the Dereck Pearson go-to for the family?
So I've gotten pretty good at, cooking steak. I'm really good at cooking omelets and things like that. But I usually just if my family has a plan for dinner, I will usually take and just do some sort of, I'll doctor it up a little bit and use a little bit of my new techniques or something I've been learning for a while and either some seasonings that my family doesn't usually use or spices and things like that. But, I guess my favorite thing to cook is it's probably steak. I cook steak in a pan, so you get like a nice sear and a crust on both sides of it, and then you baste
Yeah.
it with butter and things like that. And then I do sauteed mushrooms and onions and whatnot. So just getting back to those basics and using some new techniques before I learn more recipes and things like that.
Now, what cut of meat is the go-to?
Ribeye. Every
Ribeye.
time. Ribeye every time.
Now, in all fairness here, you're talking about how you've been trying to be healthy and eating ribeyes all the time. I don't know if would fall into that category.
Well,
but
obviously I'm not eating steak every week, but when I do cook it, it's my favorite.
Awesome. Now, you can really relate to this because you've got your brother now getting ready to go through his senior year and looking at college. And as you look at incoming seniors and thinking about college, what would be some advice that you may have for them on their choice and once they get to college, how to handle it?
Well, looking at colleges, my biggest advice is visit as many as possible. Because, walking on campus and getting that feel, you have to be comfortable where you are, and you got to look around and say, I'm going to spend the next 4 years of my life here. This has got to be a place that, I enjoy walking around. Ask questions to the people that are walking you around. It's important to ask as many questions as possible to get the true feel from the other students who are there as to how their careers went and some of the things that they did well. And every campus is different, I'm sure, to the strategies you have to have as a freshman to kind of acclimate yourself to college life and things like that. But as far as picking schools go, definitely visit as many as possible, ask as many questions as possible, but also don't let anyone push you to a certain college. This is ultimately your choice, and obviously your parents would have some say in it in regards to, financials and whatnot, but don't let other people choose where you go, and don't try to follow friends, because it's way better if you learn and make those new friends, because then you have more friends. And so I guess coming into college, probably my biggest piece of advice is to have fun. As I said before, you got to have those times where, you can sit back, you can relax with your friends, go have a night out at the bars, go, play catch or do something out in the yard or whatnot. And you really got to have fun. And as much as your GPA does matter and schoolwork does matter, it's for nothing if you don't have fun.
No, so great.
That's
great
my biggest piece of advice.
No, that's great advice. Now I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the importance of your parents and their involvement in your life and kind of their being your biggest cheerleaders. Anything you want to share about that and kind of the impact they've had on you?
I don't even know where to start. Just all the help I've had through the years, anything I've ever needed, they've always been there for me. Even though we're 3.5 hours away, I felt like I was living right next door. I talk to my mom or dad at least once every day, texting them what's going on and things like that. If I needed anything, they would always be there for me. I know I could come home and do whatever I wanted at home, and it'd be nice to go home and see them too. But, they're definitely my biggest support system, and I knew they were there for me if I ever needed anything in this world.
No, outstanding.
I
well, this has been a real pleasure, Dereck. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing. You're an outstanding role model for your class, and you've done it the right way. You've had fun. You've succeeded. And obviously, there's no doubt you're going to have a long future ahead of you on the biomedical side, and you're going to do awesome. So congratulations, and thanks again for your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on here.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Awesome. Have a good day.
That's fine. So tell me about this senior design project that you had while you were at Iowa.
So my senior design project for biomedical engineering. So the project does is they give you a list of topics that you can sign up for, and then they assign you a student mentor in relation to that project. So this is a group project, involves about 5 people. I had a great team of people that I've known for a while, and they've been my friends for um, most of my college career. And what I did was, so our client, he's 26, his name is Adam Keene. He's a PhD student at USC in civil engineering, and he's lived with cerebral palsy his whole life. And so he wears this thing that's called an ankle foot orthotic. And it's something that you wear when it helps you, I guess to put it in layman's terms, is if your gait is incorrect or if you can't walk easily, this helps adjust your gait to where it can be more of a fluid motion, and correct your gait a little bit so you can walk more easily. And so this device for him, he's a bigger guy. He's 6'3". He's 230 pounds. And the big problem with these things or these devices that are on the market today is that, one, they don't provide a big enough range of motion for your foot, or they're not durable enough for bigger people. So he's actually had a couple of those break on him through his career. He's very active. He's a 100-day-a-year skier. So he's, even regarding his disability, he always gets out there. He's very active. He works out very frequently. And so the goal was to improve upon the current design to make it more durable, more comfortable, and to provide that greater range of motion for him that he can use when he's being active. And so it's basically the first semester you do, a lot of research into the roots of the problem, find out the market size, things like that. And it turns out there's around 5 million people in the US that could be affected by this musculoskeletal disease or neurological disease and things like that. And it's really a big issue. So we wanted to be able to, even despite someone's medical condition, that we would like to allow them to have the same opportunities as everyone else, and, not to feel left out that they can't be involved with these, I guess, activities, whether it's playing basketball or going on runs or biking and things like that. So our product turned out very well. We've had a few iterations of a prototype, but especially with all this happening and the lockdown and whatnot, we were really unable to put the finishing touches on the project. And, that's something that it pains me to see, because I was really looking forward to handing this off to our mentor and, seeing how he liked it, what his thoughts were on. And I mean, he's an engineer too. So we would Skype call him at least once a month and, get his input on what we were doing and if he wanted to go in a certain direction or not. But that was one of the more meaningful aspects of my college career, just because it had so much background and I was very invested in, helping our client get what he needs and to make him happier and to feel better about himself. So
That's awesome. It seems like that really kind of lit a fire for you on what to expect going forward in your career. And
it impacted me so much to where it made me falter from wanting to go into sales back to engineering. But it's definitely was very meaningful to me, and it was one of the cooler projects I've ever been involved with. So I'm thankful for that opportunity. I'm thankful for my teammates and things like that helped make that possible. And, I'm really proud of what we accomplished, just because there was minimal assistance from professors and things like that. And I mean, if you needed help with some sort of equations or, kind of ideas how to work around this problem, they would help you. But this was pretty much, just, this is your work.
that's great. It seems obviously at a higher degree, but it almost seems like it wasn't around when you were at school, but the incubator program that's now at PR, and even on the engineering side, they're doing some of those projects as well. So
Yeah, definitely.
That's
But
awesome. So
I just love classes like that to where it has a little bit more meaning to it. And,
yeah, it's that life. You're not making widgets. You've got that nice life application finally and something to roll with. So
it was very fulfilling. Yeah.
awesome. Well, hey, thanks again for the insight and just, great stuff to share with others. So I really appreciate it.